A beautiful day here. Warm. And I don't care, wherever you come from, maybe the tropics, you're laughing at the use of the warm in Canada, right? That's all right, I'll show you. On today's show, which eating habits are trendy? And which are actually healthy? That's the real question. Nutritionist Julia Karantjas is here with 3 healthy habits worth our time and attention. Plus, audio describer JJ Hunt gets us into the St. Patrick's Day spirit with descriptive tales of Ireland from his long-ago visit to the Emerald Isle. By the way, our show's a healthy habit, guaranteed.
This is Kelly and Company.
I welcome you wherever you are checking us out on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube page. We'd love to know you're out there enjoying the content that we post. Checking us out via our podcast, always another great way. And of course, those of you settling back, listening in on AMI Audio. Kelly MacDonald here with Nisreen Abdul-Majid. Well, happy Monday to you. I hope you had a great weekend and basking in this warm weather.
Happy Monday. Absolutely. I mean, I saw people in t-shirts yesterday and in sandals acting like it's summer. I was walking around the mall and I'm like, what's going on? There's still snow outside. Why are people dressed like this? But people get excited about the warm weather.
If you have sandals on, don't you get the sand and stuff between your toes? I mean, I know you want a beach feel, but salt and sand? No, I don't think so. Yuck.
No, you'll get snow in your sandals because there's still snow outside.
I'm okay
so that's
with
what
the snow if it's
me.
Clean. But dirty, yucky water with sand and oh god.
So what do you do? You wear shoes on the beach?
No, I'm talking though walking around now in sandals. In Canada, because we all know I'm exaggerating about the warm and everything like that. But the people you saw yesterday, when they get home, they gotta bathe their feet because you've got all that sand but it's dirty sand. It's not beach sand like a beach in Jamaica with that beautiful white sand, that clean sand. This is salt and sand and road yuck from melting snow.
Yeah, it's nasty.
Ew.
It's really nasty. You have to wash your feet after that. If you're gonna wear sandals in this weather, it's not right.
Yeah,
it's really not
horrible.
right. But you know what? I love how people get excited about when it gets a little bit warm, slightly.
Probably
so
a little
nice.
too cold for the t-shirt and like just the t-shirt. Like, I mean, it's one thing if you have a jacket stashed somewhere and you're walking around and people are like, oh my gosh, they're out in a t-shirt in this weather. Because sometimes people will leap to that conclusion. They see you in the mall, so obviously you've come out of walking 4 miles from your home to the mall with no t-shirt, no t-shirt, with just a t-shirt on.
Yeah, I feel delusional sometimes. I was in a sweater yesterday and I still felt like it was a little cold, but I was like, I am not wearing a winter jacket in this weather. Nope.
I want to wish a belated International Women's Day. Was Saturday. Hope folks did some thinking, did some realizing where we're at, how far we've come and how far we still have to go, and recognizing the day. So that was on Saturday. Did a little tweet out wishing the best to people on that day and just recognizing it and seeing so many different organizations and members of parliament and so on doing the same kind of thing, recognizing the day and just putting it right, Nisreen, right at the top of your mind. I'm sure you saw stuff all over social.
Yeah, everybody posted about International Women's Day and it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I want to shout out to my mom who deserves that day for herself, that's for sure.
Beautiful. Folks, you can email us with any comments, questions, things you want to share with us. kellyco@ami.ca, and of course you can give us a call 1-866-509-4545. That's 1-866-509-4545. There always seems to be stories in the news about artificial intelligence, chatbots, and about the regulation of AI. Is it being used in veterinarian medicine is the question. If so, what's it being used for? Are there any concerns with this? Dr. Danielle is going to give us a look at AI and its current role in veterinary medicine today. Danielle, welcome back to the show. And that's the question, isn't it? Is AI being used in veterinarian medicine?
Well, it's definitely being integrated into veterinary medicine more and more as time goes on. In some cases, its use seems to be more a little bit behind the scenes, and it isn't always obvious, when you take your pet into the veterinarian. Depending on which veterinarian you see, though, you might already know that, AI is being used because, you've been asked about it. But, really sort of depends on the place you go.
Hmm. Yeah, I know we get hearing about it on the show. We talk about it every day in one way or another. And I know it's one of those things that you embrace so much because you just never know how far it's going to go, what it can be done, because there's so many things that, I never thought of that. Do you feel that way as a veterinarian yourself, that, I mean, as this started to be something you'd hear so much about, did things leap to your mind that you could see where it could be applied in the veterinarian field?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think kind of the sky's the limit, I mean, that's kind
Right.
of what we're being told about AI in general. But currently, we definitely see its use being sort of integrated into various things. And so, right now it's being used more and more in laboratory testing.
Mm.
So while there are centralized laboratories that pick up samples at veterinary clinics, they run tests on them and then send the results back to your veterinarian. There are also lots of what I will call mini analyzers in clinics too. And what I mean by that is that these are lab machines that run the most common types of tests right there in the clinic. And, in some cases, AI is incorporated into some of these machines, making sure that they make sure that the machine was loaded correctly, make sure that it's been properly cleaned and that everything is running properly so that the results the machine spits out will be accurate. There's also in the laboratory setting, there are now devices that will take pictures of cells under a microscope, like you smear them out on a glass slide. They'll send
Mhm.
those pictures digitally to a veterinary pathologist. Um, in the past, the pathologist would have to scan through the whole slide to find the specific area of cells that would give them the information that they wanted. Well, in some labs, AI is being used to scan through the slides and then to suggest areas on the slides that the pathologist might want to check. And, we also see AI being trained on reading diagnostic images like X-rays, and that's a service that some labs are now offering as well. But, one of the biggest areas where I see AI becoming integrated into veterinary practice is using it to help write medical records. Um,
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
in that case, a lot of software will listen to the conversation between the client and the veterinarian and records that conversation and then types it all up, summarizes it into a medical record for the veterinarian that they can then review and approve or edit later in the day if they want to. So these are some of the areas that I kind of see this
And
starting
that,
to take
Danielle,
off.
how was that dealt with? Let's start there. The last one, would that have just been notes that you as a vet would have had to make yourself, or kind of go without? And now the
Mm.
possibility of having these conversations captured is like you said, sky's the limit, something on the horizon I never thought about.
Well, like I can tell you, like as a veterinarian myself, when I go into an appointment, I take a history, I, ask if there are any concerns, and we talk about all of that. And then when I come out of the and we do the exam, I come up with a plan, and then I have to go out of the room. And veterinary medical records, we have a section in them where we put the history and what we talked about, we put the physical exam findings, we put our assessment, we put our plan. But sometimes if it's a conversation that's really long or involved, it can take a lot of time to
Oh yeah.
type that up. And so
Mhm.
a lot of times if it's a big one, I will do some of it, but then my next appointment is waiting, so I will shelve the rest of it and go back
Hmm.
later. So the idea
Mhm.
being that if an AI can record that conversation and type it up for you, all you have to do is read it and go, "Yep, that
That would
sounds
be
right."
amazing.
And you'd
Yeah.
Yeah.
remember, it would jog your memory really nice. But the other jobs that we were talking about, scanning, finding out if something's properly cleaned in the test, when we talk about earlier, the things you were saying, like the laboratory testing, the machines, these are jobs that when humans are doing their best to clean things up, the scanning, these things have to be kind of, oh, something's up there, or we have to, but we're talking about saving a lot of human time, aren't we? A mass amount.
Yeah, for sure. Because, when you think about that, like, if you are in the middle of chaos and the phones are ringing and, you have an animal that, needs to have a catheter put in or some x-rays taken or whatever you have to do, the last thing you're thinking about in those moments is, we have to clean that machine now, right? So, having a lot of that sort of taken off your plate, can be a big advantage.
Yeah, and having like less time for the patients that are waiting in the waiting room. I know we all experience this when we go to any doctor appointment, whether it's any doctor appointment. But yeah, it's the wait time is the drag, the worst part of my appointment when it comes to that. So
yeah, because Nazreen, you're first one up, but we're running late.
yeah, I'll be like super early and still like 2 hours, 3 hours late. But this would be a great benefit. Are there any regulations in place regarding the safe use of AI?
Well, as far as I'm aware, currently there are none, which to me is actually pretty scary when I think about it. Mm-hmm. In veterinary medicine, though, veterinarians are responsible for every choice they make in clinical decision making, and that includes the choice to use an AI or an AI service, right? So, that puts the onus on veterinarians to make sure that the use of the AI is safe, effective, accurate, and that a client's confidentiality is protected. So basically, if your vet uses services provided by AI, they are responsible for that choice and the consequences that can come of it, whether they be good or bad. The Canadian Veterinary Medical Association and the provincial regulatory organizations, of course, have provided guidance to veterinarians on what to consider when choosing whether or not to use AI services in practice. And some of those considerations would be, clarifying exactly what information is to be gained from the AI, why it's needed or why you'd want to use it, how the AI was trained, because you can have biases if it's fed the wrong data, how effective it is, and, and again, just, trying to find out if there's any bias in the data that trained it. Other things, of course, are the accessibility of the information to veterinary teams and who owns the data that's applied to the AI and what is done with it, Right. Confidentiality of client information and maybe even where the data is stored might also be important, and secure
Right.
storage of that information.
Yeah, it's funny because I know we think about where's stuff going. We also think about the responsibility that you mentioned that the vet is under if they make that choice. We're not talking doing taxes. Oh, I made a mistake on line 16 or whatever. So instead of owing, now they owe you or whatever it might be. That's stuff that, okay, yeah, it can really make a difference in someone's life. But we're talking something very heavy here, and if AI is chosen, so definitely got to get those regulations to where we know. But I gather that responsibility would always stay with the veterinarian. So we can talk about potential benefits that for you see right off the top, and potential risks that outside that we may not have touched on yet.
For sure. So, we already talked a little bit about the benefits of using AI in the laboratory settings. So, making sure that the quality control on the machine analyzers is good, and that, the samples are all loaded correctly and the machines are clean, all that kind of stuff. Because, of course, many years ago, these things take a lot of time and they were a real pain to do, right? So, it made it more likely that maybe it just didn't get done as often as it should have been, right? So these are great, huge advantages. We talked about the AI scanning the slides, that also saves a lot of time, for people when, okay, you know what, check out this area first. If you don't find what you need, go looking elsewhere. But, that allows them to read a lot more slides than they would. And that means that your veterinarian will get results back faster because the turnaround time isn't as long. If AI are trained on good data sets, they could potentially improve the accuracy of their readings, So, there are some companies out there that are claiming 95% plus accuracy for their AIs in being able to diagnose x-rays from a specified list of conditions. And I think that's important to realize, a specified list. So if your animal has a particular condition, then 95% chance that they'll get that right for that condition.
Because in theory, it would just get better, in theory.
Hopefully, and so, for a veterinarian, sometimes having someone double check your interpretation can be really helpful. So if you look at an x-ray and you think, that looks like whatever, and the AI comes back and says, I think it's whatever, then you can say, I think I'm doing pretty good with this, right? Somebody else backs me up. And of course, we talked about medical records too. That can be a huge time saver, so that careful history taking and having everything written down, saves your veterinarian from having to type all that out. And then all you have to do is review it for accuracy. That can be a really big advantage as well.
I know you said you're worried about the lack of regulations that are in place right now, but are you worried about anything else that, having AI in vet medicine?
Well, I think the risks will vary with what the AI service is used for. I mean, some activities are pretty low risk from a patient safety perspective. For example, having an AI summarize a medical record is much less risky to your pet than having it read your pet's x-ray, for example. But still, even for things like medical records, there are potential risks. There's always the risk that the records aren't accurate, but, if the veterinarian is reviewing them for that, it's certainly a very manageable risk because, they get a chance to look them over and go, yeah, this is good. I'm okay with that. It's what I would have typed. The biggest concern for me, though, is ensuring that client confidentiality is not breached. So who has access to those recordings? Is voice recognition used in the service? Is aggregate data collected by the AI service provider? And if so, what is that being used for? And what about cybersecurity? Could that data be hacked? And even if the company is providing the service and it isn't Canadian, is it subject to our privacy laws? Like, these are all questions I'd be asking my veterinarian if they told me they were wanting to use AI to transcribe my pet's medical records. But, I think the bigger risks potentially come from services where AI is used to inform clinical decision making by veterinarians. So, for that reason, a veterinarian we really need convincing, accurate, and unbiased data demonstrating the efficacy of an AI service, that supports clinical decision making. So, because vets are ultimately held responsible for their decisions, they need to be making those decisions, not an AI. An AI is really only a tool to help a veterinarian. It doesn't replace a veterinarian's skills. And the other thing I worry about too is we don't want vets losing those skills, right? No. It's great that AI can do things like read x-rays, but we never want to get to a point where veterinarians can't do that because they've come to rely too heavily on the technology. So those are all things I think we need to kind of think about going forward. How do we mitigate those risks? And if people are interested, I know the College of Veterinarians of Ontario has a really great chart on their website showing the relative risks of different services and that with AI. So it's kind of a good read.
Does that good read also include people asking the question, what jobs are lost? We're always talking about AI taking jobs, but we also know that there's a lot of shifting that will happen with AI, leaving people time to do other things or other areas, expanding maybe new courses that are offered because AI takes care of this. Is that something that we're hearing any conversation about, or for those who are thinking they want to get into some form or part of vet medicine in some capacity, the alarmists out there that might be saying, man, by the time I get there, AI will be doing all that, forgetting there's so many other things that will come from AIs being there?
It is not a conversation that I have heard personally, but again, when I think that the clinical decision making, veterinarians are responsible for that, then I don't think that you can I don't think you can get away from that.
It's
somebody
more of
needs
speeding things up, maybe supporting that you're going to
Yeah.
get, but you'll definitely need, and I'm sure every vet out there will say, well, and maybe they will never change and say, well, a little less responsibility for the vet. Maybe they'll always say, well, no, because there can always be error.
Yes. And I think that, who knows what's going to happen in the future. I don't have a
Yes.
crystal ball. I wish I did. I keep asking for one
you
for
did back
Christmas.
there.
But,
You've been telling me
it would
stories.
be,
Okay.
yeah. But I think that, who knows what's going to happen in the future. But at this
Yeah.
point, with the way things stand now, I could only hazard a guess, and it wouldn't be accurate anyway,
Yeah, but interesting. Danielle, as usual, interesting conversation with you. We will do this shortly again here on the show in a couple of weeks.
Okay. You guys have a good one.
Next week?
You
Yeah,
too.
next week. What am I making up, right? Thanks, Danielle.
Bye.
Our veterinarian Danielle Johnkind joining us on the show to talk AI. When don't we on the show talk a little AI? Nazreen Abdel-Majid, myself, Kelly MacDonald here. And Nazreen, a couple of things. Let's get into a little item you've got to discuss for us to kick around here in a conversation piece.
Yeah, so from Canadiano to Freedom Fries, history shows that food names often change during political conflicts. And recently, some Canadian coffee shops have renamed the Americano to the Canadiano. Love it. Amid tensions between Canada and the U.S., Bonnie Sharpay, owner of Mugs 2.0 Coffee House in Port McNeill, BC, says the change is meant to add humor and promote local businesses. It's a fun way to spark conversations, she told CBC. This isn't the first time food names have been politically changed. In 2003, U.S. politicians pushed to rename French fries as Freedom Fries due to strained relations with France over the Iraq War.
Right.
While some renaming efforts are playful, others reflect deeper political divides, proving that even food isn't immune to global tension. So what do you think of that? Because for me, I see it as like, yeah. You're not a big fan of the name changes.
I'm not. You know why? Again, it's a personal thing in my head. First of all, the message that we send to our American neighbors. Well, we have to remember it's a ridiculous administration that has made all these choices and just making a joke. Yeah, we can go on. Well, they voted him in. Okay. So I'll give you that one, folks. But reality is, I don't think anyone expected the stupidity to come out of such an administration as we're getting. So with that said, I use the example of, well, let's change this. Instead of the Gulf of Mexico, let's call this the Gulf of America. It's just an endless stream of this kind of thing. And I know I'm being oversensitive. This is meant for humor. This is certainly, I would never, if I were manager there or one of the staff, probably say, vote no, put my hand up for it. But I give it a bit of a whatever. If it's making people laugh, if it's giving people that little bit, just like winning in the hockey game gave so many Canadians that, for whatever it means. Bunch of NHL players from the same North American League playing each other, and Canada beats, whatever. Okay, I'm all for that. It made people feel better. And if this is what makes people feel better at a time when so many of us are stressed out due to the stupidity going on, the hurtfulness, I just also want us to always not lose focus that, yes, a lot of Americans absolutely disagree with what's going on.
I think it's silly. That's what I think. I think it's just a silly thing. I don't think it's that serious. I'm not mad at it. I'm not stressed out about it. It is a stressful situation with all the tension that's going on between Canada and the US. And I understand the frustration that people are feeling. And when it comes to this, it's something to lighten the mood. And that's why I don't disagree with it. I think it's nice. I think it's just a fun way to kind of lighten the mood because everybody's just stressed out, upset, it's an awful situation that we're going through right now. And I think with something like that, it's playful. I don't think it's that serious, but some people do take it as serious as it can be, and I understand that frustration. I don't blame people.
Yeah, and I think, Nisreen, the area that is the biggest concern where I say I would never vote, let's not do that. I may personally feel a bit of a thumbs down for the reasons I've given, but unfortunately the trump card is what this is, and I don't mean that as in the president, ladies and gentlemen. The thing that trumps all of this is the fact that a lot of people need this because they are really taking things serious. They need something that makes them smile. It is very much upsetting people. It's staying on people's minds, stressing people out more than they've ever been before, on top of just trying to live and feeling the betrayal, the hurt, and trying to deal with their frustrations and anger. And I'd rather people walk in and see the sign changed and go, than walk in and say, take that down and smash it or something like that. We just can't be doing that. So I hear you. And that in itself, because we're hearing how much people can't get away from this and what it's doing mentally to people and how it's affecting people. So yeah, man, if you can put a smile on someone's face doing whatever every day, or take that away, there is a tremendous value. Yeah. Exactly. We're looking for members of the disability community, ladies and gentlemen, to join our AMI research panel. Our research panel is what guides us out there with all the decisions that we make here at AMI, including programming, media consumption, and, of course, accessibility. Participants are compensated for all long-form studies that they actually wish to participate in. For more information, and if you'd like to join, go to ami.ca/panel, ami.ca/panel. They'd love to sign you up and get you involved, folks. Also, remember, check out our Kelly and Company podcast from your podcast platform of choice. And just like we say about YouTube, while you're in there, give us a rating and review. Our YouTube page, check out our podcast and subscribe if you would to both, and give us that rating and review when you have some time. But mostly, please do enjoy the content. That's the Kelly and Company podcast. Subscribe now.
So what food habits are actually healthy and not just trendy? Nutritionist Julia Karantjas is here with us with 3 healthy habits that are worth our long-term attention. Julia, what habits would you say are trendy but not worth our investment?
Okay, I think, this is my opinion amongst a lot of colleagues I know in my industry, the trends that cut out entire food groups. I think short term, this is fine to do if you're under the guidance of a practitioner, if there's a specific goal in mind. But generally speaking, we have these 3 macro, groups: our carbs, our fats, and our proteins. And I think diets that cut out an entire group are trendy, and I don't think it's got longevity in mind. So those are habits that I don't, advertise to clients or those in my inner circle. I just don't think they're great for health long term.
Are there any specifics?
I was gonna say, like, any of those. Is it the diets kind of where? And I don't want to pin any, because obviously, like you said, speak to a health practitioner before you get into some of this.
Yeah, I mean, there's, the keto diet where you're going very high fat. And I, we've talked about making friends with fat. So we definitely need to have fats, but then your carbs are really low. And there's a lot of good stuff in carbs, with fruit, sweet potatoes, oatmeal, whole grains. We have a fiber there. We need that for colon health. The B vitamins are very plentiful in those carbohydrates. We need those to basically absorb and do everything in our body. They're also great for stress. The B vitamins are our stress vitamins. Let's not forget about the prebiotic benefits of fruit, how it contributes to proper gut health, as well as the fiber. So again, for me, it always comes back to colon. I do think the colon is, an extremely important part of our digestive system that should not be avoided. And I think we're going to talk about that in the coming weeks, because I am very pro colon health and being mindful of what's going on in your colon and making sure that what is going into the body is being eliminated from the body when it's not being used. So I like diets that focus on whole food without being overly restrictive. And I also think those are not easier, that's a terrible word, but better to maintain long term, where you don't have this feeling of deprivation.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I feel like whenever I go on a quote unquote diet. And I'm always like restricting myself so much that it only lasts for a couple of weeks, and then I'm just back to my regular routine. I'm eating chocolate here and there. I'm doing this, and I'm a big sweet tooth. No, not
should
just
be its
here and
own
there,
diet.
but,
The chocolate all the time.
I'm trying not to expose myself here, Kelly. Thank you.
Well, I want to talk about quickly before we move on from here something that I want to talk about my little friend, water.
Yes. So, had the habit of drinking water. Drink your 8 cups every day. This is a habit that is worth trying to develop, trying to pick up, to be mindful of. I don't think quite understand the effects that dehydration has on the body. I mean, if you're properly hydrated, you can reduce joint pain. You can reduce your feelings of fatigue, which a lot of people do complain about. You can regulate your body temperature. And also, we need the water to, it's kind of a power source to the body to start unlocking all of the nutrients that are in the food that our body needs to function. And so water is extremely important. And I do think it's a habit that is worth spending time developing. And it doesn't need to just be plain water. I think, we've talked, Kelly, on numerous segments about how to stay hydrated without having to just drink water, and whether that's having a cup of tea or eating a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. Cucumber is full of water, iceberg lettuce is full of water, celery also full of water. You can definitely contribute to proper hydration in the body through eating. Water is important though, so it could be, like I said, uncaffeinated tea. You could add lemon, any other citrus fruit to your water. There's a lot of all natural flavor enhancers you can add to water that are naturally sweetened. Those would all count. And so you don't need to just drink plain water, but keeping the body hydrated is definitely worth doing.
It's hard when people, like I love my coffee, but I've luckily found years ago when my father gave me a challenge as a teenager about drinking water for a few days, and I became so attached to it, so addicted to it, that I'm one of the lucky ones. I know a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, I've always loved my soda at the time. I no longer drink soda. Maybe once in a blue moon I might pick one up, and have one if I'm at an event or something like that. And sometimes they're easier to get than a nice bottle of water. There was a time where people had to really advocate and say, hey, you need to have water as a choice, man. You need to. Who wants that? But I know I drink a lot of coffee, which brings on that fear of dehydration. What do you say to people, Julia, as one of the basic things that as a nutritionist, how do you sell it? Like, it's almost like it's a joke. Hey, drink this free thing that comes out of the tap, if you will, and you can drink as much as you want. Oh, go away. Sure you can.
Yeah, so I sell it like if you don't drink the water, you're going to feel tired. And if you don't drink the water, you're not going to be able to absorb the food. Eventually, you might get bloated. There might be constipation issues. Things don't go, through, kind of like going down a water slide without water in the body. You don't want your food and your waste product to get stuck, and that's what might happen. So I stress the importance of it, and then talk about all of the bad things that might happen if they're not hydrated. And then I also don't take things away. If you are drinking coffee, good, drink your coffee. If you like to have a glass of wine or a soda, okay, keep that in too, but then we need to add. So we're not taking away, we're not restricting, but we're adding. And then sometimes you just, you're going to the bathroom so much, you might stop drinking some of the other things. But I don't restrict, but I just add. And I think sometimes that can be really helpful because, like you said, Nazreen, with the restriction, it can kind of lead to the rebound effect after of not being able to stick to it, because that's not a nice feeling.
No.
Yeah, I was one of those people that you had to sell it to, because I was one of those people that would, if I'm thirsty, I'm drinking coffee. That's what's happening.
Well, see,
but I've gotten better.
You actually feel. See, my thing that sold me was I felt quenched. I learned very quickly, soda, orange juice, whatever it might be, coffee, I'm still thirsty afterward. And usually, the thing I'm doing is picking up, another. But if I drank water, I was good. Yes. I was good to go. Any other healthy the habits that you want to cover, a couple of others?
Yeah, a really simple one is just eat more whole food. Therefore, eat less processed food. You know, the packaging, all the stuff that comes in packages that you have to open is typically made with a lot of preservatives, chemicals, or other additives, and you notice more that the nutrient content has decreased. And so, if you're eating more whole food, you are getting more of those vitamins and minerals, which is really the point of eating. I mean, that's how we feel satiated. That's why we eat. We need the vitamins, minerals, and all the nutritional content of the food that we're eating. And so the less processed the food, the more likely it is to have a higher nutrient content than its processed counterparts. And so that's another habit I would implement is, take a look at how much processed food you're currently eating and see if you can replace a fraction of that, a portion of that with unprocessed food, and then build on that and go from there. So maybe that means adding an extra raw piece of fruit, an extra apple, an extra banana, an extra cup of berries, or an extra serving of carrot sticks in the day. Just increase your food that is not processed, that doesn't come from a package. I think that's worth it.
Right. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people just spend on that's the thing about social media. They want the easy way out, and again, I'm pointing to myself first. I want the easy way out, and you just spend money on like trendy stuff that really it's not worth the investment.
Yeah. Economically,
Sorry,
too,
Kelly.
sometimes just buying the whole food is, in your favor.
Yeah. I mean, the other area we touched on a little while ago, too, when we asked the question of you, how should we be cooking these things? And I gather that has a lot to do with, we were talking potatoes, and I'm not a potato person, but if you disguise them as a French fry, hey, that's all right, but it's not all right.
Well, yeah, right. Because then you're frying it. So that's the third habit is how you're preparing the food, because again, we want to have maximum nutritional content of our food. And the more we cook it, the more we process it, the more we cut it and expose it to heat and just do a bunch of stuff to it, it can affect some of the nutrient content. So, if you are having vegetables every day, that's great. But if you're frying them in a fry pan with a lot of oil every day, maybe try twice a week steaming them. So not boiling them, not putting them in water and having like all the nutrients get lost in the boiled water, but steaming them. So, you could steam. A lot of rice cookers also come with a steam basket, attachment that you can use, or you just get one of those little stainless steel baskets that go straight in a pot. You add a tiny bit of water. It doesn't take long. And that's a really great way to preserve a lot of the nutrients that are in our vegetables when we cook our vegetables. So instead of frying things or deep frying things, maybe we're now eating them raw, or we're having them steamed, or at least incorporating that a couple of times a week. So these healthier food preparations is also a great habit, because a lot of times the deep fried stuff, it just adds a lot of extra calorie and fat, which takes up space in our stomach that we could have used to put in food that would give us vitamins, minerals, again, those nutrients. I do focus a lot on nutrient content, because I think that's where people's imbalances are coming from, is that they're eating a lot of food, but they're not getting all of the vitamins and minerals that their bodies need to function. And then they have those feelings of, I'm hungry, but I don't really know what I want, and I can't satisfy my hunger. And it's your body telling you, I need stuff, but it's not finding it. And then we're tired, and then we get sick, and then all these other ailments come into place. And then, the point is really, you want to feel good. You want to have energy, live your life, and feel good.
Kelly,
I know fatigue is a big thing.
Fatigue is a big one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, who doesn't want more energy, especially with this time change we're having right now? Oh my gosh.
That's what I'm always feeling.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Julia.
Thank you.
That was Julia Karantjas telling us about 3 healthy habits that are worth our long-term attention. So pay attention to those, because don't pay attention to the social media that's out there and taking the easy way out, and you're just spending your bucks on nothing.
But if I air fry it, never mind.
But if I air fry it,
vegetables, right? Get the cucumber in there. Oh, God, no.
I know all of us use an air fryer, right? Like it's 100%. All of the
It's
recipes that
healthier.
I'm seeing on TikTok is air frying everything.
Everyone goes on, it's healthier. My doctor would appreciate this. And the doctor's saying, I never said that. And I never, oh, no. I'm just thinking ahead for my doctor.
Yeah.
Folks,
Yeah.
as Nazreen was mentioning, you see all these things out there on social media, but you can follow us out there. We're there. So go to, we're at Kelly & Co. AMI. And Nazreen is the one to interact with out there all the time. Putting some things up there, some of our content from the show, asking a poll question here or there. That's on Twitter and on Instagram at Kelly & Co. AMI. Well, we're a week away from St. Patrick's Day, a time when everything turns green. Even at this time of year in Canada, everything turns green. Pints of Guinness, well, it flows freely. Just love it. Okay. Everyone out there embraces a little Irish spirit. To help us get into that St. Patrick's celebration, let's welcome audio describer JJ Hunt to the program for descriptive tales of his time in Ireland. JJ, I'm not really a beer drinker. I'm not really a drinker, so I kind of like embellished, exaggerated, but we're going to get into the real things I know about pouring our Guinness, but we'll talk about that. But how long ago, first of all, were you in Ireland?
It's been a while. I was in Ireland, early 90s was the last time I was there. So it has been a while. I was less of a gray beard, more of a brown beard back then.
I was there
right.
for a layover. Does that count?
I don't know. Did you
get out of the airport?
Was it long? Yeah.
I did not get out. It was like a 2-hour layover, but I wish.
So you got to hear some great accents, right? Like
Yeah, I
people
love
at least
it.
talking around you to at least feel you were there.
It's so
You're gonna
cute.
start. JJ's gonna start us off with, and again, we were just having this chat about our neighbors to the south, some unpleasant people from the U.S. that you ran into.
Yeah, this was one of those funny stories. I mean, Ireland is a place for storytelling, right? Everyone loves a good Irish story. So I'm gonna kind of half borrow an Irish story that I was told when I was in Ireland. I was in the Aran Islands, beautiful string of 3 islands on the west coast, so kind of near Galway, Inishmore, Inishman, and Inisheer. The banshees of Irish Sheeran were. Inisherin. See, it's a tangle. They were filmed there. Anyway, I was on the islands. They're beautiful, stunning, gorgeous green plateaus, lush green, filled with these rock walls. So all of the islands are kind of crisscrossed with these, knee-high hand-built rock walls that have been there for centuries. And I'd been exploring the island for a day, and I think it was on Inishmore. I was there and walking around. I went to the this cliff fort, Dun Angus, and that's an anglicized pronunciation, but something around Dun Angus, and it's this cliff top fort. So imagine building a giant bullseye out of boulders on top of this rocky plateau, and then half of that fort just disappears into the sea. It collapses. Oops. And the cliff wall is now halfway through the fort. So you end up with these concentric half circles of stone. And these are prehistoric. We're talking Bronze Age, just gorgeous. Anyway, it's the kind of fort where you go, you can't see what the entire thing looks like, but with the salty air and the crashing of the waves against the cliffs and the vistas, and it's the kind of place that your imagination takes over and kicks in. So I'd been at this fort having a wonderful day, went back to the hostel at the end of the night, and Kim, the guy who owned the hostel, he's, how was your day? What'd you get up to? We told him about going to Dun Angus, and he said, "Oh, sounds like you guys really liked it." We said, "Yeah, it was amazing." He said, "It sounds like you liked it more than my American friends." And we said, "Your American friends?" And then he told us this story, which I will retell now. So he says, "Yeah, just the other day, I had this American family, a mother, a father, and a teenager. They came to the island, and I was touring them around in my van. And I couldn't make them happy, no matter where we went. I took them to a pub. They were miserable. Took them on a hike to see these farm fields and the walls. They were miserable." He said, "I took them to Dun Angus. I thought they're going to love this." And so he pulls up the van and he says, okay, so you got to get out of the van and you walk about 200 feet just up. There's a little trail that leads because you can't park right there. And the mother and the father were fed up. They're like, we're not even going to get out of the van. So they say, kid, they give their son their camera. It was back in the day when you had one family camera. They gave the camera to their son and they said, you go take some pictures and come back and tell us what it's like. So poor Kim is sitting there in the van with this American couple behind him. They won't even get out of the car. 10 minutes later, the kid comes back, and Kim's thinking, like, 10 minutes? He barely got up there. So the kid comes back, and the parents say to him, like, so, how was it? And the kid said it was awful. There was nothing up there.
Oh, my God.
And the parents say nothing? The kid says no. There was no gift shop. There was no snack bar. There was nothing. Just a bunch of GD rocks. And so just a bunch of GD rocks has become this tagline, this phrase that my family and I say whenever we're now standing in front of some magnificent structure, some cathedral, some, work of art, some amazing piece of nature. We stand in front of it and someone invariably will click their tongue and go, psh, just a bunch of GD rocks.
What a way to, what a waste of a trip. I'm sure Kim wanted to turn and say, why are you here?
What's the point of being in Ireland?
Where do you go?
You're so
and
ungrateful.
My goodness.
Yeah.
And Nazreen, really, truly, he's telling the truth. Families had one camera, really, back then.
No kidding.
Really? Yeah,
But
why? Why only one?
I just find it's such a ungrateful thought. I mean, you're taking the time, you're paying all this money to look at the views, to see Ireland and its beauty, and you're not even appreciating it. I don't know.
And you want a gift shop. You want food, which probably you're just going to get a hamburger at anyway. You're not even going to get authentic, Irish food like in a fry up or anything like that. I think that's where I get lost, Nazreen. It's this is almost a comic joke. You'd almost swear this family get back to their room and say, you think these people buy it? Ha ha. As if they're ready to work it up so that they can say, since we had such a miserable trip, can we have half our money back?
Yeah, exactly.
No, just go to a resort.
Well, that's it. What's the point? What's the point of traveling if you're not going to experience something new? What's the point if you're not going to take whatever moment that you're in? It is absolutely true that this is a ruin. These are just like knee-high walls in concentric circles. If you want to take it literally, there's not a lot happening. But again, the air, the sound of the crashing waves, the knowledge that this fort has is centuries old. We don't even, and let's face it, this was a bunch of white Americans. Odds are these were their ancestors way back who had built this fort, right? Think about the history that's there. Imagine why, how, all of those things. It just, to me, it's a lack of imagination.
It's sad.
Even just the water crashing, the beautiful sounds, and thinking this was a building built so long ago that it's crumbled. This isn't just, your run-of-the-mill, that barn burned down. I mentioned a fry-up. I mentioned food. Yeah. Let's go into that Irish breakfast thing. I like that.
Oh, the Irish breakfast. I adore an Irish breakfast. So I am blessed with an Irish wing of my family. My God family is part Irish. And so I had not only an Irish godfather, but an Irish god grandmother. Her name was Isabel, and I adored Isabel. Isabel would come to Canada and she'd make fry-ups for us. And one time I went to Belfast to visit Isabel, and she, every morning, which was a total overkill, but every morning she would do a fry up for us. And yes, it was always done in an electric frying pan, a big rectangular deep electric frying pan. And it needed to be deep to hold all that grease. So you start with the bacon rashers, so streaky bacon, and so bacon that's lots of good fat lines in there, so you can render it out. The meat gets crispy, but the grease renders out, and then you throw some sausage in there, maybe some blood sausage, black or white pudding, which is
Nazreen, do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Nazreen, do you know what the blood pudding is? The blood sausage?
No. I was gonna ask.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, good.
it's one of those things you either eat and don't ask, or you ask and don't eat, right? It's a pretty intense. So it's sewage.
Questionable.
So hard fat, and pressed into that hard fat is oats, and then either cow's or pig's blood. So there's your nutrients, and it kind of you turn these into pucks, and they're delicious, especially when you fry them in all that nice bacon fat. Oh, so you got your bacon.
You ready
got
for
your
lunch, Nazreen?
sausage.
I am ready.
And then
Go
when
ahead,
the pan
JJ.
is nice and thick with oil, you get your breads in there. Your soda breads, your wheaten breads, and your tatty scones. So really nice dry breads. The tatty scones are like pancakes made with mashed potatoes, and you fry all of those in the oil from all of that bacon and sausage. So they get really tasty, really, really meaty. And then once you've drained most of the oil into those breads, you crack a couple of eggs in there. I feel terrible talking about this immediately after discussing like steaming your vegetables and whatever. For the record, I am
We went from a
pro-steamed
healthy habit to
vegetable,
this.
Well, and Julia wouldn't mind because Julia just said, good, that should hold them for another week. Now let me get
It's
into
my
that Irish
cheat
fry
day,
up.
Julia.
Exactly. The one that begins Monday at 8 a.m. and ends Monday at 7:59.
Yep.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love the fact that you get this anytime. Is that where potato bread, is that one of the breads too? Am I right?
Yeah,
Is that Irish or
the
Scottish?
tatty scone is like it's either it's like a mashed potato, or you can do like a riced potato, and you fold it in with flour, and so it's a very particular. Again, you get that you tend to get the meatiness from the oil that it's cooked in, but it's a drier kind of bread. Really, really good, delicious.
Yeah. When I was doing my TV show Blindsided, in one of the seasons, we had a little St. Patrick's Day event that we did. I went to the Toronto Parade, and one of the things I got to do was try to pour a Guinness. You want to talk about the original way and talk a little bit about that?
Oh, the pouring of a Guinness is like part art, part science, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and to be done perfectly, you have to start with a Guinness pint glass. It's a particular kind of pint glass. It's got a clear bottom. That helps with some of the science. And it's got a couple of logos on the side, including a golden harp that's on the same place on the side of the pint glass. And one of the reasons that's on there is to help the bartender pour properly. When you're pulling, so a tap has a tall handle. A Guinness tap has a handle that goes toward the bartender and toward the customer, back and forth. And so the first time you're pouring, you put the glass under that spout that's connected to that handle at a 45-degree angle, and the spout should be aimed directly at the harp on the inside of the glass. And the bartender pulls the handle toward them, and the beer comes out and hits that harp, slides down the pint glass at a 45-degree angle, and they fill the glass about 3/4 of the way up. And then they set it down for approximately, there's no approximate about it. It's something like 85 seconds. They have a specific time, and it sits there. And what's
85,
happening? Yeah, it's very precise. When the beer is poured from the pulled forward, like pulled toward the bartender handle, more gas is entered into the stream, and it comes down with more pressure. So the glass, when the bartenders finish that pull, looks like the gods took a pint glass on a stormy night and scooped up thick, black, dark, cloudy, stormy sky, and then they put it down on the bar and they let it sit. And what happens is that storm inside churns and churns, and the lighter bubbles, the bubbles that look like foam, rise to the top, and the heavier bubbles that look dark like the night, they start settling. So you can see this churning action. It's magical. It's cloudy, and the head rises to the top, and the dark night, the chocolatey dark night of the pint, starts going to the bottom. So after that 85 seconds, you've got about an inch and a half of foam at the top, the head, and the rest is really dark. Then the bartender takes it, puts it back under the tap, puts the handle toward the customer so that it's got less pressure, less bubbles. You top up that head. So now you've got 2 inches of perfect foam at the top that crests the top of the glass. It doesn't pour over the sides, it doesn't spill, but this foamy cloud crests the top. And then, and only then, at 92.5 seconds, I believe, the customer is served their beautiful, artful pint of Guinness.
Wow.
What a way to create a beverage. JJ, what a way to describe the pouring of a beverage and get us all lined up for St. Patrick's Day. Thank you kindly.
Have a good one, guys.
Talk to you soon. JJ Hunt joining us. He is our describer, ladies and gentlemen. Always have the best words. We were talking about the family visit to Ireland back in the early 90s. Nazreen, talk to you tomorrow on the show. Have a good day.
You too?
On our next program, pop icon Lady Gaga is breaking new ground with a dance designed to be inclusive for disabled people. We're diving into how this innovative choreography is changing the game, folks, and we'll be doing that with Alicia Grace Chenier when she joins us on the program to get things started, the Tuesday edition of Kelly and Company. I'm waving at you. Have a wonderful one.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.